Hello, my name is Piretica. Welcome to my channel, Storytime with Piretica, where I read unsettling and spooky stories I have found on the internet. Tonight we have a double feature called The Well Diaries, which is two connected stories from r/Bright Rights by Ben Wooding, titled, I Think I Need to Bury My Husband. He's Alive. And I Work at a Garden Center. A lady keeps buying wishing wells. So sit back, relax, and get comfortable as we embark on a journey to the depths of a well. 4 years ago, my sister Daisy went missing. A week ago, my husband slipped into a coma. I didn't realize how connected these events were until recently. Daisy lived with us for complicated family reasons. She was 19 when she didn't come home one day. There isn't an exact moment I can pinpoint the grief starting, because there isn't an exact moment that I realized she wasn't coming home. It was a gradual realization over the course of 2 days, mainly because it wasn't unlike her to be out all night. I always used to blame myself, convincing myself that if I had noticed sooner, we might have found her. About a year later, my husband and I were getting ready to move to our new home. We fell in love with it immediately when seeing pictures online, and that love only got further cemented during our viewing. The place was as huge as it had looked. We thought moving here would be the best decision of our lives, although in the back of my mind, I worried that we were secretly running away from our feeling of grief, leaving Daisy behind. My husband simply said, "What if we're running with her?" I never entirely understood it, but it brought me comfort all the same. The move went smoothly, and we helped the previous owner move out too. He was an elderly man with no family, so we felt it would be polite to help out. Before leaving, I remember the words he spoke so vividly. "You think you want a big home until the responsibilities get too much." We both seemed to feel happier after moving, and it even allowed us to explore new hobbies. One of the first things my husband did was set up beautiful flower beds outside. I had never known him to have such a green thumb in the past, but he seemed to really enjoy it. The outside of our home became full of life, as did the inside of my mind. For the first time in a while, I was happy. I always told him how proud of him I was. Every week he'd buy the same huge bag of cat food. Not for a cat. We don't even have one. Apparently it's just the best fertilizer. It made me laugh. It sounded ridiculous, but something must have worked. Those flowers bloomed all year round. Last week, I lost him without losing him. I woke up without him in my arms, and went straight downstairs to find him. I found him unconscious on the kitchen floor, with blood coming from his lower leg. I don't know how long he was there, but the blame set in once again. If I had found him sooner, would he have been okay? I called an ambulance right away, but he never regained consciousness. The doctors aren't sure he ever will. When I found him, he was laying next to the well. The previous owner told us he discovered the well whilst having work done on the flooring. He decided to incorporate it into the design, making it level with the floor and giving it a tempered glass top. It dates back to the 1800s, when this building was first constructed as a pub. My husband found it so interesting, always being sure to show it off for any kind of visitors we had. I always just found it creepy. We don't even know how deep it goes. The bottom is never visible. Last week was my first night alone without my husband in years. I thought I wouldn't get any sleep, but maybe the exhaustion caught up to me. I fell asleep instantly upon touching the soft blankets. I remember so vividly dreaming of Daisy. That is when the thunder began. I woke up in the night to a booming crash. Thunder echoed all throughout the house for at least an hour or so. It frightened me at first, but as the noise died down, it actually became soothing and helped me gently get back to sleep. The next morning, I walked back to the hospital to see my husband. The ground was dry and warm. There was no evidence of the storm I had heard loudly visiting the neighborhood on the night prior. I didn't take this as a clue at the time. It just wasn't my biggest concern. Going to see him felt similar to looking for Daisy. With her, we would go out every day, physically searching for her, and places she might be. Now, instead, I wait next to my husband, hoping, wishing for him to come back to me. The next night, the thunder came back. Louder and longer this time. I didn't get the satisfaction of drifting to sleep before it began. It was whilst I was laying there, eyes open, that I realized there was no light. Not a single flash from any kind of lightning. Those bedroom windows remained as dark as void. I decided to check the weather. Cold, slightly cloudy. This cycle repeated. I felt like I was going insane. Like clockwork, every night, the same cycle, the same cycle, the same cycle. It got stronger with each night. I spoke to neighbors, doctors at the hospital, friends on the phone. I'd always bring the thunder up in conversation. None of them had heard any thunder. I could not wrap my head around how I was alone in this. Yesterday, my mind seemed to decide that it was time to be active around the house again. I cleaned the dishes that were piling up, emptied the bins, and decided I should tend to my husband's flowers. I was surprised that they weren't wilting already. It gave me a funny feeling that he was still around, taking care of them whenever I wasn't looking. I got emotional as I looked down at them. I wasn't even sure how he applied the cat food fertilizer. I had never really seen him do it. I wanted to smell them first. They always had such a strong and beautiful scent. Yet this time, nothing. No beautiful smell, just nothing. Was my sadness running so deep that I had forgotten how to experience beauty? I extended a hand out to touch one. Plastic. I touched another and felt the same thing. All of them were plastic. Every single last one. Even the daisies, planted in memory of my sister. His hobby had been a lie. I was almost angry, but all that emotion came out as tears, as I settled for just feeling empty. Why had he lied? That night is when things took a turn. The thunder was at its loudest. I could hardly hear my own thoughts. I knew that there was no chance of sleep. I decided to get a glass of water, a decision that changed everything. As I stepped down each step, the noise seemed to somehow get louder. Step. Boom. Step. Boom. Step. Boom. I stepped into the kitchen, and the noise stopped. I tensed up, bracing for the next crash to cut through the silence, yet the silence remained. Relieved, I flicked the light switch, only to be met with more darkness. The bulb was busted. Fantastic. But at least the noise had stopped. I made my way through the kitchen. The cold feeling of the glass at my feet confirmed that I was walking right over the well. I shivered, but not because of the temperature. As my feet made their way back onto the tiles, they hit something far too early. A tile seemed to be broken, or out of place. I couldn't tell, and whilst I could get a glass of water in darkness, I could not deduce this foreign feeling without the light. So, I went to get the spare bulbs down in the basement. Truth be told, I hadn't been down there since we moved to the house. I never liked the spooky atmosphere, but I had to face that fear, and thankfully, the basement was nice and bright. Regardless, I had no plans to be down there long. I found the bulbs quickly, but as I grabbed one, something caught my eye. Perfume. Lots of perfume. Boxes and boxes of them. None of them mine, and to my knowledge, my husband never wore perfume. Curiously, I sprayed one in the air and smelt it. I was instantly transported to the flower beds. This bottle smelt exactly like the ones outside our front door, so I grabbed another bottle. This one smelt like the ones near our kitchen window. I grabbed another. This one smelt of daisies. I began to piece together what was going on, but I didn't understand why. Against my instinct, I decided to look around the basement a little more. I discovered a wooden box with a label, the Well Diaries. It was locked. Next to it was a collection of framed photos. Each of them contained different people standing at the well. The earliest dated to 1910, and the latest was of my husband, by himself. I had no idea this photo existed. Who even took it? My husband had been lying to me about the flowers, but it seems like he may have been lying about more, too. I realized at this moment that the previous owner had also lied. The old man claimed he found the well. These photos showed otherwise. It was never covered up to begin with. I also found an MP3 player with only one song, Daisy Bell. The one that goes, Daisy, Daisy, give me your answer due. My sister had always had that as her ringtone. The final thing I found creeped me out too much. It was a calendar. My husband had marked off every single day, of course stopping the day he fell into his coma. There was a note attached. Feed her every day at 7 a.m. I turned around and headed back for the kitchen. This was all too much to handle. I just wanted to get a glass of water and get back into bed. Maybe in the morning I'd have a clearer head and be able to draw a rational conclusion. I went to replace the bulb, yet in my confusion, I had forgotten to turn off the light, as the new bulb immediately turned on as it screwed in. The almost blinding brightness isn't what startled me. It was the face I could now see under the glass of the well, staring at me. It was still only barely visible, but I could clearly see two eyes and an outstretched mouth. At first I was too shocked to notice one of the kitchen tiles open like a trap door, directly next to the well. It seemed to hide a small chute covered in cat food, leading into the well. I was staring at this creature in fear, yet something stuck out to me. It had Daisy's eyes. The rest of it looked nothing like her. Gray skin, bony shoulders, balding head, but the eyes. They were unmistakably hers. It hit the glass with one of its hands. The noise was like thunder as it echoed throughout the house. I only snapped out of my frozen state when I saw two fingers slowly make their way out of the chute as the face continued to stare right through me. I ran. I ran faster than I ever have in my life. I ran, and when I couldn't run anymore, I ran anyway. I didn't have a specific direction in mind, but perhaps instinctively, I ended up at the hospital. I sat, with my husband, still shaking. I do not plan to go back to the house. It's not safe there. I stared at my husband, trying to calm myself down, trying to think of happier times, trying anything to just forget about what had just happened. Instead, I found something that almost made my heart stop. Around his shin, where the wound had been, his skin was slightly gray. Perhaps I'm being paranoid, but given what I've seen, I think I have every right to be. My sister has become whatever the fuck she is now, and I think my husband is going to suffer the same fate. I need to bury him, right? I mean, that seems to be the entire point of the well. To contain whatever these things are. Clearly, they can't be allowed out. I don't know what to do next. I love my husband. I don't want to have to do anything to him, but I don't want him to become one of those things either. Perhaps I should track down the previous house owner. Perhaps I should try to read the Well Diaries. All I know is that I can't just forget this and leave. Whatever has been happening in that house, I want to end the cycle. The gentle hum of the air conditioning overhead looped the same sound I had been hearing for the past 4 hours. The same sound I hear every workday, usually 5 days a week. Working in a quiet garden center isn't bad. I'm not going to complain about things not being busy if the pay is the same, but it does get boring. It's a little busier in the summer months, but outside of that, I'm surprised the place even bothers staying open. The boss has a strict no phones policy outside of breaks, so if there's nothing else to be done, I often find myself just standing at the cash register, listening to the familiar gentle hum. Letting it hum as my mind hums with it, symphonizing our repetitive existence. I enter the building at 8 a.m. and leave at 4 p.m. Between those hours, I am simply waiting. Just waiting for the workday to be over. The humming continues. Despite the dull atmosphere in a store where almost nothing was moving, I still failed to notice the customer approach me until she spoke to me. I wondered if she thought I was possessed, or asleep, or dead. It certainly isn't normal for someone to be so distracted with so little going on. Then again, the things she said to me weren't quite normal either. "Hello?" Her voice made me jolt just a little, as my eyes focused onto her. She was holding a small wishing well that we sell. It's a small wooden one, and goes about up to your knees. "Hi, madam. How can I help you?" I tried to put on my customer service voice gradually throughout that sentence, morphing out of my "holy shit, I'm so bored" voice. "I want to return this wishing well." She spoke seriously, yet without missing a beat, continued with, "It's not granting my wishes." I tried not to laugh. My intention was not to question or ridicule any of her beliefs. But, come on, really? I cracked a smile, and tried to cover it up by looking down at the product and saying the first thing that came to mind. "Oh, should it?" I immediately knew she wouldn't like that response. "Of course it should. It's in the name." Truly shocked that she wasn't joking, I composed myself mentally, and told myself that I've dealt with worse. Besides, the wishing well didn't look used. Our policy would still allow for a return if she had the receipt. "Do you have the receipt?" "No, I don't have the receipt." Of course she doesn't have the receipt. "I'm sorry, but we can't offer a refund without it. I might be able to get you a store credit." This is never the response that a customer wants, and it's never the response I want to give. Her face went red. "That is ridiculous. What kind of establishment are you running?" "Technically none. I don't run the place." But I didn't say that. I know better than that. After a back and forth remaining in a similar tone, she asked me to get a manager, a request I had felt boiling up ever since she asked for the refund. Once you have a job like this, you really get a feel for the different types of customers. The manager, of course, told her the exact same thing that I did, because managers are often the ones setting these policies to begin with. They aren't going to magically bypass something that I could not. She accepted store credits in the end and seemed to go on her way. "I wonder why she's returning it," my manager wondered aloud. "She didn't mention to you? She says it's broken because it doesn't grant wishes." My manager chuckled as he walked away, presumably thinking I was joking. I didn't care enough to correct this thought. I stared at the well as the gentle hum became centered in my brain again, being disrupted by the woman's return, as she slammed a new well onto the counter. "I'd like this one." I contemplated telling her it still wouldn't work, but I knew it wasn't worth the hassle. I let her use the store credit for the purchase, wondering why she even argued about the refund if she was going to use it immediately in store anyway. This continued every day for weeks. Sometimes she would come in with the previous wishing well, asking for a replacement. Sometimes she would come in empty-handed and buy a new one. We eventually stopped allowing her to replace them, suspicious that she might be secretly harvesting material from each one for some kind of money-making scheme. We never found any evidence of this, however. Each return did visibly appear to still be in good quality. With each passing day, she'd come back, looking more unkempt than the last. Her hair became thin, her skin developed patches of gray. Her clothes became the same, time and time again, showing no signs of being washed. The smell became unpleasant. Sometimes she would have emotional outbursts, yet other times she seemed emotionlessly calm. It got to the point that she wouldn't even speak. She'd just throw some money on the counter and pick up a well on the way out, sometimes humming as she did. Even this seemed to deteriorate, as her humming became more of a rattly creak. She mostly stopped looking at me, although her gaze would seem to pass right through me even when she did. Her visits became an eerie ritual, all taking place under the gentle noise of the air conditioning. As the weeks went on, her discolored skin began to stand out to me more and more. She had a limp that developed seemingly overnight. I wish I had called an ambulance, or the police. Even the fucking Secret Services at that point. She was unnatural. Being in the same room as her felt equal to being in a room alone, because nobody could possibly perceive her as human. She was not the same average lady who argued with me just weeks prior. I began to fear her. The atmosphere at work changed, knowing each and every day that I would have to see her complete this sad, repetitive routine. I felt the contrast when she eventually stopped showing up. My days went back to mindlessly listening to the gentle hum. That was until today, when a man entered the store. As he made his way straight for the counter, I could see his face being unusually sweaty for such a cold day. I wondered if he was in a rush, or stressed. It immediately became apparent that the answer was both, as he began describing the strange woman and asking if I had seen her. "I'm her brother. She's been missing for days." He stared, waiting for a response. "I'm so sorry to hear this. She's been here quite a few times recently." "What did she buy?" He spoke sternly, but not angrily. There was a level of concern in his voice. I only noticed then that he was tightly holding a book. "It was always the same thing. She would—" He interrupted me. "Was it Wishing Wells?" I froze mid-sentence, my mouth still open slightly. He had tears in his eyes. I gently closed my mouth and nodded slowly. He silently allowed himself to cry, eventually speaking when he was able. "Her house was full of them, from so many different places. I don't understand what is happening." He placed the book on the counter as he attempted to compose himself. The book looked damaged, yet not at all dusty. Its origins looked ancient, though its use seemed frequent. On the front, in large golden printed letters, read, "The Well Diaries." The gold's shine had all but vanished, leaving a rough, stained look. "What's this?" I asked, knowing it not to be the right time. My curiosity couldn't help itself. "We don't know." He seemed hesitant to pick it back up, almost wanting to leave it behind. "It has every wish she ever made. Most of them are, 'Make it stop,' or 'Leave my soul.' Some of them aren't even by her." A silence filled the air, making the hum apparent to us both. It seemed louder than usual, almost creaky. I tried to break the silence. "I can show you the security footage of the last time she came in." He happily followed me to the back room, where I was able to show him. He was shocked at the sight of her, and shed a few more tears, but thanked me greatly before leaving. He told me that he would inform the police, and that they would probably drop by to check the footage. I told him I'd be more than happy to show them. Once he left, I began to scrub through the footage again. It's a smart camera system, so it automatically chops out all footage with no movement. I noticed activity from last night, long after the store had closed. Curiously, I clicked it, expecting for something falling over in the wind, or an animal passing by innocently. I didn't see an animal, but I saw something living. It was the woman, outside the store. She was crawling. The footage looked grainy due to the darkness, but there was no mistake about who this was. She was simply crawling around, occasionally peering through the windows of the store. Her proportions seemed off, especially her arms. They seemed so long and thin. The only thing about her that seemed remotely like her original self was her head. She crawled around the back of the building. As I switched to that camera view, there was no footage available. This means that no movement occurred around the back. Disturbed, I went outside and peered around the side alley. It was empty, except for the outside ducts of the air conditioning. They had been ripped off the wall and now lay on the ground. Feeling my heart drop, I calmly walked back to the door and locked the building from the outside. My manager wasn't in, so the building was empty. I began to patiently wait for the police, hoping they'd be arriving soon to ask for the footage. I stared through the window, trying to convince myself that there was a logical explanation. I noticed the book remaining on the counter. I hadn't noticed the man leave it. My eyes quickly darted to above the counter. Through the ducts that hum above my head every day, I spotted her. Only for a brief second. I'm not a religious person, but I prayed she didn't spot me. Thank you all for listening, and if you've enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a like and to subscribe for future content. I have been your host, Piretica. Good day, and good night.